Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Creighton Show. Another exciting show and definitely another exciting guest. Today, we're going to go into one woman's journey of, let's call it what it is, pain, but pain into resilience, trying to understand and correct generational trauma. And at the end of the day, let's call it what it is, coming out on top. Let's welcome to the show all the way from Canada, Miss Mandy Squires. Did I get the last name right, Mandy?
You got it. Yeah. Thank you very much.
You know, we talked briefly. We know you're a professional bodybuilder, got your pro card. Thank you. I appreciate that. Congratulations to you on that. I know what that must feel like to accomplish that feat. I'm also a retired professional bodybuilder as well. But before you got into bodybuilding, there was a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of questions that took a while for you to answer through yourself. Before we get started, tell the viewers a little bit about who you are before we go down that road.
Hmm. Well, I wouldn't say before bodybuilding. I think it also a lot of it stemmed throughout my actual journey of being in bodybuilding and self-discovery. But I'm from a small island called Fogo Island in Newfoundland, Canada, and I guess first of all, before I was a year old, my family had a big tragedy to begin with. There's a huge fire in my dad's family. His mom and dad and his three youngest siblings in Newfoundland, especially where I'm from, the small island, tend to have large families. My mom has a large family, and my dad has a large family of siblings, and they ended up perishing in this fire. So I guess to start my life off, there was quite a tragedy. And then not long after that, my parents got divorced before, or yeah, the fire happened before I was a year old. And then not long after that, my parents split and my parents went both ways. And so I ended up with my mom, and she ended up with, she was very young when she had us, me and I have an older brother. And so she was very young. And the way that Newfoundland works, or Fogo Island in particular, that I can speak with, it's like we seem to be behind the times, very old fashioned in compared to when where the world is in terms of like what is modern.
What do you mean by that? Give me an example when you say like behind the times and old fashioned. Give the viewer some examples of that, please.
Of course. So, well, for example, my grandmother, she she didn't have hot water, so we'd have to boil the water, and also, how can I put this? Also, in the island, it's a small island, and each little tiny little section of the island seemed to be segregated more to religion. So this one, where my dad was from, was Roman Catholic, and where my mom was from was Protestant, and then there were other. So there was segregated religions according to where you lived on the island.
Really?
And
How big is the island? How big is the island, Mindy? Roughly, what's the
I
population?
I should know it. I don't know it. I'd have to Google that. I'm not sure what it is, but it's even smaller now because a lot of people have left that small island. I should just Google it, but I don't know it off by hand.
Okay, that's fine. If the listeners want to, they can Google it.
Yeah, yeah, it is small, and it's gotten more popular now because um, they put a very prestige hotel there that lots of people that are rich and famous go to experience the heritage of Fogo Island, and it's beautiful because it's just off the Atlantic Ocean. And Fogo Island is really neat because I'm not saying I'm not part of the Flat Earth Society, but if you know about the Flat Earth Society, Fogo Island is considered one of the four corners of the Earth, according to the Flat Earth Society. Also, they received the 911 call when the Titanic went down. So Fogo Island actually received that call first. They couldn't do anything about it, but they received the SOS from the Titanic, which was really neat. Um, yeah, so it's a really small island from yeah, all the settlers from like, over from Europe. Um, it's right on the edge, and it's a beautiful little island. However, because it's so small, um, it appeared to be safe, but uh, I don't know. Sometimes the things that you hear talk about in the collective, in terms of and to get into, yeah, childhood molestation was very prevalent there, and I think there's a lot of and in the times we have to look at back in the times what we see, what the programs were, what was normal in society in those times. But I feel like what
What do
I'm
you
talking
mean when you
about
say
would be
in the?
further back in times. But for Fogo Island, it was only two generations ago of me. Like, I'm 41 years old, and but the there's lots of uh um well, y- so the woman just basically cooks and cleans, and that's what she does. And then the men are fishermen, and they go out fishermen, but then um, that livelihood got shut down. So then a lot of the men have to go, and they have to leave to work and come back, and leave and go and come back, and that's still kind of ingrained within the programming of being in Newfoundland, that still happens. So they go off, they work just enough to receive, I don't know, their benefits so that they come back home and be home in Newfoundland and be there.
Like, where do they go work? And thank you so much for, because I know this is going to be a hard story for you to tell. And I want to say thank you for that. But I'm trying to understand a little bit more about the culture in the island. So they're fishermen. It's two sets of religious uh, archy there, hierarchy, so to speak. There's a history. Is it? Make sure I'm getting this right. There's child molestation is something that is prevalent on this island. And the second part is, where are these men going to work at? Are they going to another part of Canada that's miles away and coming back? I'm just trying to make sure I got the audience clear on what's going on here.
Right. I mean, I can't speak for other people, but I know that I experienced this, and I know that there are members in my ancestry that like my that I like. It's really hard for me because I don't want to be speaking on someone else's behalf
Right.
and give and that's what's really difficult, because I don't want to feel like I'm giving someone else's story away, or intimate things that maybe they're not ready to
Why don't we
divulge.
talk
But
about what happened to you? How was you affected by the traditions and the different archies of religious sectors as it
uh,
affected you growing up?
yeah, so I mean, it's just it wasn't terrible in terms of the religious sectors fighting, but from the stories that you hear from, my mom was Protestant and my dad was Roman Catholic, and they would make, oh, you're not going over there to see that Protestant, you're not going over there to see that, that Catholic. And so there was like this little, like, I guess it was more, it there was bickering and like, but they ended up coming together and it was fine. But there's still that kind of tension in terms of like, you shouldn't be dealing with that person, which is so funny. Now, me as a child, um, my parents split before I was a year old, and um so my mom, she was very young, and a lot of the adults didn't even finish high school. A lot of them, especially the women, like my mom, uh she had my brother before she finished high school, and then I came like 3.5, 4 years later. And so she was very young, and
You
there's
say
this,
maybe what, like 16, 17?
yeah, I believe she was like 16, 17, and then maybe eight, something like that, 15, 16.
Uh-huh.
uh, if I'm remembering correctly. I could be wrong. You have to understand, um, I didn't really spend a whole lot of, like, I did spend time with my mom, but there's a lot of trauma and experiences that I had that kind of disconnected me from knowing a lot of details. And then sometimes my memory gets a little bit um, like jumbled, because I've understood how trauma works, and there, in order to protect itself, your neurons kind of like separate so that you don't um, go back into that trauma. So sometimes you may have missing memories, and
So a lot of this, you was experiencing a lot of the trauma, um, as you was still trying to, as your mother was still trying to be a mother, so to speak. But was your mother aware of your mother and father? Because I take it you was going to both of them was raising you to some extent or had some involvement with you. So were you able to share whatever it was with a family member, whether it be your mom or your dad or somebody on the island?
no, and that's what I come to realize is the worst part about trauma, that it's not really, it's where when trauma really affects you, it's when you're alone with whatever happened to you. And I was alone with all the things that happened too, that I experienced. And I never really had someone sit down and um, talk with me about it. But also, when you when you experience trauma, especially early too, um, like, it's confusing and you don't even understand what's going on, and then you can block that kind of stuff out. Now, I knew that stuff happened to my mom. My mom had um, a lot of trauma that happened to her, and so when she split with my dad, um, they were trying to figure out, okay, that they asked my brother, who was a little bit older, who do you want to live with? You want to live with your mom or your dad? Apparently, he went to go live with my dad. My dad moved to Ontario, and my mom stayed in Newfoundland. But my mom traveled around to different places in Newfoundland, and so that was the other thing, is I never got to remain in one place to build like a structure
Independently?
or roots,
Yeah.
and so that comes into play as well, because um, there's never anything or anybody to kind of hold on to. Everything's always ripped out, and then you're here and there. And so, um, and then my mom went, and because it was normal to, domestic violence was normal in the past. Um,
What do you mean when you
and
say it was normal? Because I know you're older. Is Are you saying that it was normal in Newfoundland where you grew up? That was, hey, they fight all the time. To beat somebody up is was this something that you was exposed to every day? Because let's get real, that's not normal by any shape, form, or fashion. But if that's what you see in your young age, you begin to internalize that as being normal. But two part of my question too. Go back to this. Roughly, how old were you? I don't want you to go so back because I don't want to open up Pandora's box to where it can cause you more harm than it does good. And I appreciate you sharing the story and want to come out and be vocal on this. So, as much to the best of your ability, how old were you when these things started happening? I'm pretty sure we're talking about molestation, correct?
okay, yeah. So that's the thing is, I know I was really young because I just have one little tiny memory of when the first one happened. Um, and then, uh, and I can't even quite place it entirely because that's what happens. You dissociate,
Right,
and then you block that out. And I don't think I've been ready to fully see it
right.
now as an adult. And I'm like, okay, I just, the knowledge of it, I feel like, okay, I can just work with that. I can feel fear within me when I think of like
Yeah.
seeing that or like re-experiencing that.
Mindy,
Um,
who did you have to, and I don't want you to go that deep. I don't want that to happen. But what I would like the viewers to know is because the way your town and your community is structured, and I'm not knocking your town. I'm knocking the way that the individuals acted in their conduct as it reflected on you now as an adult. So my question is, your mom and dad were both young when they conceived you. These things happen to you at a young age. I take it because the town is so well, everybody knows everybody, even though there's a religious divide between the two, everybody knew. So I'm pretty sure you knew who your perpetrators were, and were there multiple perpetrators that invaded your privacy as a child?
okay, so here's the thing. I wasn't always on that island. After my mom and dad split up, my mom left that island and went to other parts of Newfoundland. And she got different boyfriends and they ended up, see the way that trauma works too, when a woman experiences and sees things when they're younger, they tend to like, it's called trauma reenactment. So they tend to gravitate towards other men to do the same thing to them. So that's what was happening to my mom. And so I just recall seeing her be in, I just have minimal memories, but the memories that I do have are not the greatest.
Right, right,
And so, like, seen her you know, been treated not very well, but also she went through, um, like, she was having issues with her mental health, and she's been trying to get help and has been trying to get help for um, a long time. But when a woman, and the lack of knowledge in the mental health field, what
mhm.
do is they just,
Medicate.
use you as a lab rat and give you, okay, take this pill, take this pill. So my mom she always had these panic attacks that she would get. And so instead of like, the way that society is let's not, if you don't have money for a real, counselor or therapist, you go to only what social services and stuff can do. And they give you, to me, I think I think there's, I think, like, I've been looking at the, uh, the autism spectrum, and I think, and it could be from years of trauma too, because like they kind of overlap, like things that can happen, trauma versus like being on the spectrum, because she gets like overstimulated and there are times when I get overstimulated, so it's hard to say, is this trauma based or is this like is this my processor, um and there that definitely has overlap within that. And um I do know, like a lot of my family hasn't opened up, but has opened up only a little bit of what they experience. And even collectively, there are lots of people that their families have experienced lots of trauma throughout the years. And we know that we all are actually interconnected. And so we carry cellular memory, and however close you are, the closer you are in either interactions or biology, that cellular memory can transfer. So you can even be a child that never actually experienced abuse, but if your family lines actually experience abuse, some of that memory can still be within your nervous system, and that stuff has to clear. So, and from what I understand about the history of um, where I come from, I know that there's a lot of molestation that happened on that island. And I know that there's a lot of people that aren't able to open up about that. They're very scared, they're very ashamed. And I know exactly how that feels, because I'm the one to speak up and say. Now, my first memory, which isn't a isn't a complete memory, happened off of that island. Because my mom, like I went with my mom and I was around. Now, my mom, she was young. She didn't have the help that she needed for the things that she went through. I know when she was very, very small, bad things happened to her. And I don't want to tell her story or label who that is, but you get the gist of it. And I also spoke to other aunts, and I also spoke on my other side of like where my other family was. And it was on that side that I ended up there was someone that molested me that I spoke out about. Um,
When you spoke out, take a breath, take a deep breath,
mhm.
take a deep breath. Because I know this is, I respect what you're doing. You're coming out, you're releasing it, and you're trying to make this story impactful for other people that went through, and let them know that they don't have to be afraid. They can say whatever. They can say it and let it out.
But
Once,
yeah, where I get shaky is and this is where it comes, and where I've had even, you know, when you tell a story that is involved with other people who aren't ready to have that story told,
right.
they can come and attack, like be upset and be
That's
mad
what
at
I was getting
you.
ready to ask you. Like, you decided to come public about not really throwing them up under the bus. Let's get that straight. You're not
I
here to
don't
mention
want that.
names. Yeah, you're not here to mention names, and I'm not gonna. I'm gonna make sure we avoid doing that. But the bottom line is, whatever those actions was is now affecting you now. So knowing that you know these people have, and I'm pretty sure you've told them that what you're going through. Have you been excommunicated from the circle, pretty much, friends?
No, no, no. They're watching and they hold me up. They are they support me. They support me 100%. And because I'm able to be a voice for them, and they, I'm supported. There was only, I did do one thing um, when the one passed away, and I saw, I saw everybody talk highly of this person, and it just it really triggered me.
Yeah.
And then I spoke out publicly. I actually
Did they
spoke
know
up.
what he had did prior to him dying?
See, I thought that they did. Like, in my mind, I was like, come on. Because people know a little bit. People have an idea. They know, like, they tell them, they say, okay, don't like your kids or don't go near this guy because he's weird. You know, he's a perv, but don't go near him. So they know that it's going on, but that's the thing. When it's normalized, when it's happened to generation after generation, it's made normal, and people don't speak up about it, and they're taught to keep it under the rug, because when it happens to you, like, and it happened to them and to them and to it's you're the one that feels like you caused it,
Yeah.
and so you're the one that holds all of the shame. And so, and then, you have generations of this, because in society too, it's so normal for, like, a man to then to take, like, a 14-year-old as a bride, and this is only like 3 generations,
You're talking about
you
where
know
you live at, it's normal to take a 13 and 14-year-old as
well,
a
like,
bride?
3 to 4 generations, which isn't too much. Like, you think of, like, all of the, like, 3 to 4 generations. This one died, and because people died, women were dying of giving childbirth, dying of tuberculosis. They were because there wasn't a whole lot of medical stuff on that island too. So when tuberculosis came, TB, uh, there were, there was a lot of deaths. And then, so you got two people married, the wife dies with children, and then all of a sudden the husband is wifeless, then takes a younger kid. As I say, now we can look at it and say kids, but then, like, when we're looking generations back, this is what, like, it sounds crazy to us, but this is happening in other parts of the world. This isn't crazy.
How was the
This isn't.
churches normalizing this? They you're talking about Catholics, and then you're talking, what was the other religion? Protestants?
Yeah, Protestants. There's other religions on the island too,
So how
but
was the religious sector condoning this? I mean, you gotta know what everybody's doing on this island. I mean, it can't be that you can't hide it. And you're going to
yeah,
church on Sundays or whatever. Somebody is saying something, and somebody on an adult or authority is normalizing this generational situation.
because you have a small island, you have a small population. And also you've got incest happening because there's not a lot of population. And so then you've got even cousins marrying cousins, which I have in my family.
We're not laughing at you, we're laughing with you. Okay.
And and so uh,
Let
the
me
things
ask
that
you this. Let me ask you this, Mindy. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm gonna ask you this so we can stay on track. I'm thinking, this is just my thought based on the information that you share with me. Because this is normalized according to your words. Young marriage, older men.
now, the young marriage thing, like, you know what? That wasn't in my experience, like, or my mom. Well, my mom, I think she was born in the 60s, and then my dad is born 1954. So, like, there might be like 8 or 10 years. I
Mhm.
can't remember his. Um, and so my mom was, yeah, probably 15, 16 when she went with him. Now, see, here's things repeat, okay? So, like, when I was 15, 16-year old in Ontario, my first boyfriend ended up being a 34-year-old man. And I was with him for 7 years
Excuse
before I
me.
was like, what's that?
I said, excuse me, you was 15 with a what? 34-year-old man?
Hmm.
What did your father say?
Oh, well, that's Mandy. You can't tell her anything. Just let her do what she wants.
So your father didn't intervene with a 30-some-year-old man dating a 15-year-old?
No, he didn't.
Because I feel like your mother wasn't mentally available to address what you was doing. She probably was dealing with her own situations or unaware of what she had to deal with. I'm just assuming. But
Well,
your
my
dad,
mom ended up like, and mom, I'm sorry, I love you, please, but like, this is your story, and you're a strong, strong woman because you overcame this. But my mom, she ended up, she like, I think she wanted. This is the story. Like, she was young, and she ended up them being a single mom at that time too. She was part. She wanted to party, and she met the wrong kinds of men too. And this is where, um, you know, like I just kind of was there, and like ended up being like hoping someone would look after me. She was kind of doing her own thing and then going through her own stuff, and
so you
society also
gravitated
teaches that.
to so you gravitated to not the age aspect, but what you might have felt was security because you wasn't getting that with an unstable mom and a father. Am I kind of right on
Right.
this? Okay.
Yeah, so that's what makes me vulnerable to, perpetrators. So you have this kid, that's this small little kid that's not really being looked after, um as she should be. And that's because you have both parents that never got the help that they needed when they needed the help. Because you have to think, like, my dad went through crazy trauma. His all like he lost, like, my dad's family, they lost everybody, like three young siblings and two parents all at once.
And a father.
And then his wife, he comes home, and his wife now doesn't want to be with him. And so then he loses his other family, right? So my dad ends up with, like, my dad has an alcohol problem. And so that would be like, if you zoom in anyone's particular story, that's why, like, it's like when you hear from mine, it's like, yeah, that sounds like, how could that dad be not do that? How could that mom do that? But you also have to then take me out of the picture, zoom into their life, right?
Mhm.
And what their life was like, and what her life was like, right? And that's how we end up in this terrible places that we end up, where there's just so much pain and trauma that keeps getting passed down, which is, you know, I ended up going through having my toe dipped into a portion of, like, experiences of. Oh, are we
No,
here?
no, you're still here. You're still here.
So my mom had lots of siblings, like, I think it's like seven or whatever. And so what was normal, like, her dad was an alcoholic that was going and coming. My grandma had all these kids, and then just, um there wasn't enough time and attention and awareness spent on these kids to even know what's going on. And so my mom went through, yeah, there was sexual abuse by people in that family, and I know my aunts have spoke up about it too, and there was violence. I i should have gotten, like, I saw this poem that, like, my aunt wrote, and just the things that she experienced, and to know, like, my aunt's experience is just like, wow. and then I ended up. So of course, my mom would, without getting the right attention, care that she needs, she's going to do repetition compulsion. So she gravitated towards men that were very abusive to her, and then there were drugs, of course, because coping mechanisms, right? And I seen awful things. Like I seen my mom, uh well, I stopped my mom. I saw her being like, he was about to stab her, and I stopped it when I was like 8, 9. I also seen her beat bloody with frozen meat from the freezer. Okay, so like I've seen terrible things. I've also, like, we didn't have money, uh and we were just constantly moved all the time because my mom, yeah, she's in a vulnerable place, and so she's going with these men who are just not good influences. And
Mindy, was there anybody in your circle or that knew what you was going through to step up to the plate, or was this stuff so normalized that there was there wa- there was no resources for you? Not the church, not social services, or any services even available on this island.
I will tell you, so this is not me being on the island. This is me being off of that Fogo Island.
Okay,
Probably if I was on Fogo Island, it would be different. This, like, the crazy abuse and stuff that my mom experienced maybe wouldn't have happened. Um, who knows? I don't think so. Not
but
to
what
the
about
degree
social
that they
services?
did.
Because you're not on an island, but you are in a place in Canada where they should have social services, and
They did.
somebody
And
there had to see what you was going through and make a call or something.
okay, so here's the thing. My mom and her boyfriends or whatever moved constantly. So I never stayed in a school for, like, I would be like in a school, um I'd be in like 2 or 3 schools in 1 year. So it's constantly uprooted. So then she rooted, like, it would be in different places within on in Newfoundland. Then I would go stay with my dad for like a summer in Ontario. Then I would go back with my mom. My mom would be living in Nova Scotia. And then from Nova Scotia, they went to the I spent a year in the Yukon.
Yeah,
And uh so and I was told not to speak. I was told not to tell anything because of the shame that, it brings, right?
mm,
So like my mom didn't want anyone to know. So I was told not to say anything. And I was conditioned to not say anything. So and I'm a very, like, sensitive and introspective person. So I and also, I don't know, they would tell me, like, her boyfriend that she went would say children are supposed to be seen and not heard, or heard and not seen. And then I would constantly get in trouble, and I'd be grounded in my room. So I was constantly isolated. And then but I went to church. But I found, like, I always gravitated, like, my parents didn't weren't religious, and they didn't go to church, but I always took to, like, Sunday school and enjoy going to church and learning about God, and that was like my thing.
your safe place.
With that?
That was your safe place, so to speak.
Yeah, it was. And so and I always just, like, I was very, like, I don't know if it's cuz conditioning or if this is my natural disposition to just be um i- well, for safety, to be in my own world, right? So I walked around this world in my own world. And uh so I
Maybe.
took joy in going to Sunday school and the singing and stuff. So no matter where I went, and I didn't care what denomination of church it was, I just went and I loved it. And then I would find things like I would join things in the schools that I was in going in, whatever school I would be like I was really young and I just joined the chess club. And my mom's like, how in the world do you even know how to play chess at this age? And I would just like take joy in that. Now I only ever went to like friendships were
Brief.
very brief, and if I did, it was like I usually only took to like one person, and then I would so which kind of matches with like the autism spectrum thing,
Yeah.
which
Mindy,
is like a kind of
I'm gonna ask you
what's
a
that?
question. Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you. I'm gonna ask you a question while it's on my mind because you said your mom demonstrated a lot of instability, whether it was with other people, but because of this, I'm curious because of the different men that were coming in and out of her her life. Your mom never thought about these dudes, these men perpetrating on you.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I do recall her like she did have conversations with me to say like if anyone ever touches you, let me know. Did anyone ever touch you? And but okay, so like the one memory when I was young, you're told by the person who does it that it's your fault. No one's going to believe you. You're going to be in trouble. And everyone will hate you if they find out.
Okay.
And so that's how, so you don't say anything and it's very confusing. So that's why, my personal relationships have been scary because love has been scary for me, right? So I, um,
When you went to your dad,
mhm.
and I don't know, I'm just asking because you're right. That's probably those are things that people probably say. When you went to your father's house, did you feel any safety there to tell your father what you was dealing with, what you was going through? Or was you really protecting him by not adding more on his plate?
Right. So when, okay, so here's a few. So I was with my mom, and then lots of this abuse happened. Eventually, and my mom had another baby um, with her boyfriend that she had he's since passed away, and I love my sister. Um, when we were in the Yukon, she had another baby. And then in Nova Scotia, when we lived in Nova Scotia, there was, my mom tried to leave a few times. We went to shelters. And the way that the system is, she just couldn't, she felt like she couldn't do it on her own. So she would keep going back. And eventually, that, like, after the time that I seen, like, my mom always said, like, don't tell anyone that these things are happening because she was under shame and she didn't want to know and anyone to know. And then, but when one time that major one happened with like the meat and stuff, and she yelled, call 911. And I went next door and I called 911. Sorry, I'm just actually that we went through that process. We went to a shelter after that, but um yeah, but I was in school, and I think my teacher started noticing there was a change in me. And I remember her pulling me aside and saying, "What's going on?" Oh, sorry, that was after I went to a foster home. So all of a sudden, someone came, and it was the social services, and they pulled me aside in school, and And they said to me, did anything, or what's going on, or is there anything happening? Like, they kind of knew, I guess, that, there were drugs, there were abuse going on. So they wanted me to speak, and they had me set up with a camera, and I didn't want to speak because I didn't want to tell,
Mhm.
my mom and this man who I still, like, loved and cared about as, um, as a provider still, because it's confusing because, there are these people he'll be nice and good in terms of my experience. I don't have anything as contrast of what nice and stuff is, right?
Right.
Um, but I wouldn't want to, like, I didn't want to tell on them. But then they said, okay, if you tell us, you'll get to go home with your dad. And I wanted to go with my dad so bad because, but, and I love my dad, but my dad was never actually present as a good present father would normally be. He drank and gave me complete freedom of, like, I had to parent myself with my dad. And but he was the more, like, there was no abuse happening, right? I
Mhm.
didn't have to see abuse there. So um
Your dad became easier for you to manage what you was dealing with. It basically is what it boiled down to versus
yeah,
the
so
conflict
then
with your mom.
I was in a foster home, and they didn't even tell my dad or anyone in my family. I was lucky because it was my sister's aunt, and I knew them, and they're very nice. So thankfully for that. But I had to go. I snuck out on a payphone, and I collect called because we have payphones, and I collect call my grandmother, my mom's mom, and I'm like, I'm in a foster home, and I collect call my dad. Dad, I'm in a foster home. He had no idea. But the way that they had me talk was, if you say these things, if you say what happened, you'll get to go home with your dad. And I said, really? Promise? So I thought right after I had that conversation, I get to go home with my dad. Right after that conversation, they said, oh, no, you can't go home with your mom. And then they put me into a foster home. And so that was like, there was a big lie there. It was like, that wasn't what I understood. And now my dad doesn't even know. And I had to sneak off and use a payphone to go and tell, the other people in my family where I am. And so my dad, I guess, did whatever did, contacted my um, aunts and uncles to help him, because my dad was on social services in Newfoundland. He didn't have any money. But he made his way to Nova Scotia, fought in court. He had to come a couple times in order to. And then my mom told me, she also called him and said, listen, you need to get Mandy because she needs to go home with you, because she didn't want me in with um, the family that I was in. Now, they treated me very nice. They were an amazing family. Um,
So, Mandy, like I said, thank you so much because I know this is hard. Let's move forward a little bit. You wind up gravitating to a much older guy. How did that even take place?
yeah, so after just like after that was when I was 10. I just want to touch on this first. When
Okay.
I was 10, then I went to live with my dad. That's when, or sorry, shoot. Before I went, I was actually, okay, the sexual abuse was while I was with my dad when I was 10. That was a year before this happened. I would live with my dad for 1 year prior to this thing happening, of getting put into the foster home. But there was my godfather, and he um did things. that I knew wasn't right, made me feel uncomfortable, would say things, offer things, ask me to do things. Now, yeah, so eventually I started avoiding him altogether. And then, but I ended up in this place of in Nova Scotia. This thing happened, and in a foster home. And then I went back with my dad, and then I'm back near this other man again. But that was still, I could still manage that better than, and I was happy to be there because I had roots, I had friends. I felt like, I had other things available to me. Whereas when I was all the other places, I had no network. I didn't have my grandmother. I didn't have my friends or cousins or whatnot. But over here, I did. And all I had to do then was I just stopped avoiding that man, and I kept it a secret. So one of the things that made me keep that a secret too was like my dad's used to, I thought my dad, and that's the thing is like I take things literal too. My dad said, if anyone ever did anything, I would kill him. So I thought in my head, I thought my dad's going to kill. So I can't tell anything because if my dad kills him, he's going to go to jail. And I don't want that to happen. So I'm not going to tell anything.
Okay.
And so, yeah. So, but I think the deeper thing, you reenact and things, and you draw people to you when the younger that you are and things happened to you, you end up repeating and finding situations that are similar. And so when I was 15, I started working out in a gym. I actually had a eating disorder during that time, 14, 15, which makes sense. Of course, most people who have eating disorders experience a lot of, some reason that, like trauma, and you're trying to get control of your body in some way, shape, or form. And that's a way to kind of try and take your sovereignty back. So I had, and then I went to a gym, and then this man, of course, was like, he started, well, and this is how I got into bodybuilding. He was a personal trainer, and he said, oh, wow, like you have great genetics. I'll train you for free if you do a show. And so I thought, okay, um, I can tell he's probably interested in me, but like, I'm not going to fall for that. But then, they grew me because, you start to bond to them. And the reason that a young girl will bond to an older man is because she doesn't have that any influences in her life to, she's searching for some sort of person to kind of take that role. And so unconsciously she goes towards an older man because she didn't have a father figure. She didn't have a parental figure to be that. So and you're looking for you want someone to see you and give you love, care, and attention, and I didn't have that. And then this man came in and he gave me that. And then that ended up with my whole high schooling shame because I knew I'm dating this 34-year-old man, and I didn't want anyone to really know about it. But also I think like I'm mature for my age. And age is just a number, and you don't really see that. And he eventually puts me in situations where, and I was never going to touch drugs. Like I loved like God, purity. I originally before thought I would never have sex before I'm married. Like, and then I meet this man, but there were unconscious things playing out in my childhood that were versions of me being hypersexual and a small and a kid with certain like tendencies learn that from somewhere. They don't start doing certain things unless something has really happened to them. So um yeah, so I end up in this situation with this man, and I learn about bodybuilding because I'm actually in the gym. I'm working out extensively, doing tons of cardio, tons of abs. Don't know anything about muscle or abs. He comes in, he shows me, like, he introduces like Oxygen magazine to me, and I see a woman, a different physique from like the skinny models, because like I wanted to be skin and bones because that's what I saw.
Mhm.
That's what people loved, model skin and bones. And then I see an Oxygen magazine and there's this woman and she has like this muscle tone and these abs, and I'm like, wow, like that's what I want. And so um and then this man is like, I'm going to help you um, do that. And so I'm mesmerized. He's also spending time with me. I end up moving in with him when I'm 17. He has two boys from another marriage. He starts, yeah. So that's who I lose my virginity to. That's who, I have my first experiences with. And as I'm with
How
him,
old was his kids?
um, 6 and like 12, I think, at
Okay,
the
so
time.
they were young. Okay.
Yeah. And like he's good most of the time. I learn things from him. Like he has his own business and he works at a shoe repair, and I start working at the shoe repair with him, and I learn about going to the gym, and I learn about having like my own smoothie vitamin shop when I'm like 16, 17. And everybody uh, in okay, this is in Aurora, Ontario now, and um people know how old he is and they know how old I am. And people just, it's fine. They're watching.
It's normalized.
Yeah, they're like, whatever. And
Law enforcement and the police didn't say nothing about that because I think that's called statutory rape.
so apparently, like, so I have an uncle who is or was a detective. He's retired now. And I think some of my aunts spoke up like behind, and like were saying stuff. And then I think they did ask him, but I think because I was 16, there was nothing they felt like they couldn't really do anything because 16, I have a choice. Um, but knowing, I was not me, I was not like, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing.
That felt a
Um,
lot better than what you was dealing with and what you had to go back to. Basically,
right.
or down to, yeah.
And like, cause like
He know.
my,
Hold on, Mindy. Did he know what you have gone through? Did he know the dysfunction of your mom? Did he know the dysfunction of your dad? Did he know about the molestations and all this prior to after you met him?
like, I think I eventually divulged information, but what he ended up doing is he started being pretty pervasive, um, at times. And
What do you
like,
mean? Pretty pervasive.
well, he started talking about sharing me and wanting to watch me with other people.
Oh,
And he started putting me in situations, um, like that. And so that's like, he introduced drugs, and I thought I would not do that, but now there was this figure that I really looked up to and
so we
completely
we
trusted with
talking
everything.
steroids or we talking hard
We're
drugs?
talking about like cocaine.
Okay.
And I remember like taking it and I would get huge panic attacks. And he would go so, and I didn't understand because like this made me want to talk and share and be friendly because that's who I am genuinely on the inside. But like I'd be so closed off and nervous about people. So then I would take this and I would be like, I was still just like, let's talk, let's play, let's like enjoy life. And then, but I couldn't understand that these other people would take it and they would get so sexual and weird. And um and it was very confusing for me because now like this person that I'm supposed to love me like now wants me to do all of these weird things, and I don't know what to do because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And I like try to whisper to him like I don't want to do it, and he just keeps putting me in these situations. um yeah, and I just want to make him happy. And
So you wind up
eventually,
doing the
was that
things that so you wind up doing what he wanted just to make him happy because let's call it what it is. That's still your safety place, no matter how you look at the other alternatives. But to move forward with this, and like I
Mhm.
said before, I know this is hard for you, and we won't take up too much more of your time. When did you decide that enough is enough? You you
Yeah,
you done
so
everything under the sun. It's time to. Did you have a child yet by then? Because we know you have a child.
yeah, I have two children, and no, I didn't have my children yet.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, on my 23rd, just after my 23rd birthday was when I like started to be, because he actually started to get violent. Um, I started serving and bartending at Charlie Fitzwhiskey's in Aurora, and I like the only time I ever like did drugs was with him. And then there was this one time I did one line in the bathroom, um, and with someone else, and I came and I went home because I always just went, did my thing, come home, and I did everything. Like I never hung out with anyone. And then, anyways, I did this one time, and then I went home, and then he's like, "Did you do any?" And I'm honest. I'm always honest. And I said, "Yeah, I did, this one line in the bathroom." And he strangled me. Um and he let go before I died. I like, but yeah.
Why do you strangle you
Uh
when he's doing the same shit?
yeah, but here's the thing is he wasn't the one telling me to do it. So I did this on my own without him.
That
So it wasn't about me, like, so if I go, yeah, so like he wants me to do stuff with other people, and he wants me, he's okay with me doing all these things under his control. There was one time we went, I one time got to experience going to, I forget what it's like, a festival, and like it was like a, yeah, it was at some sort of festival, and I was there with friends and he was there, and I went to watch this one band with a friend, and like he wasn't very far, he's just over, not very far, but because I went without him, and his son was with us too, I think, from what I remember. Um, and then we went back to the car, and he lost his shit because I didn't ask for his permission. And he broke the windshield of my car. And so like when I started seeing these these things, and then I thought about also, I was like, I'm 23 years old. He's going to be like 54 when I'm, whatever. And so then I was like, okay. So one time I just came home from work, and then I told him, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to, like, I don't want to be in a relationship anymore. And then he kicked me out. Like, it was my car. He kicked me out of the basement apartment that we lived. He just kicked me out and like kept the keys. Like I didn't have of my own car that was in my name. And and then I called my friend that I worked with, and she came and got me eventually. Like, but he wasn't. He wasn't like, it was fine after that. Like, he wasn't harmful or anything like that. We just ended up staying there for a little bit till I found a place, and then I moved out on my own, like with a roommate into a place in Vaughan. And then I was probably single for not very long, but I noticed something within myself because, like, after that, I started going out with my friends, and I would get really drunk. And this wasn't out of my character. So, and then I noticed, like, um, yeah, I slept with a couple people that I didn't want to sleep with, and I was drinking, and then I was like, wait a second, what am I doing? So that only lasted not very long till I observed myself and like, I can't do that. But I ended up meeting my now ex-husband just shortly after that. And then when I met him, we moved very fast. And then that's when I had my first daughter. Cause like we met November 13th and we of the 1 year, and then the following year I had my daughter. Like, we moved super fast because in my head I was like, I went down this dangerous thing. I met this man. He introduced me to his family. I'm all like excited, like, oh, I have everything. Like, we're gonna move. It's gonna be perfect. Even though like he had signs of being um drinking too much at that, but I then overlooked it. But he had lots of traits of like, okay, being, a good grounded person, safety in my eyes. And we ended up having our first child a year after then, and my life moved up into a great direction. Then I got a job at State Farm Insurance, the head office, and I worked my way up from entry level into special investigations unit. And and in order to get married, because he was actually originally from Newfoundland, and I met him here in Ontario. And it was so funny because his parents actually rented the basement off of my aunt and uncle, but we met separate from them. And then we're like, what? That's so weird. And and then we ended up yeah, we just like gravitated, moved really fast. And then I did then in order to get married, because we didn't have a lot of money, he was like, we'll never be able to afford to get married. And I was like, yeah, we can. Watch this. So I like researched, I found this reality TV show called Last Bride Standing, and then I entered it, and it was a contest, and I stayed awake for 5 days straight because that was a contest. Whoever's left standing, no sleeping allowed, standing, like, is start one hand on the wall, and like you got to stand, and whoever's the last standing wins. So I was awake for 5 days straight doing this,
That's
and
great.
it was such a cool experience. And I got second place because I lost out of a silly thing at the end. But um, to be honest, I think the second place was the best prize, because like a lot of the vendors actually extended the first prize to me because they saw what happened. They're like, oh man. So anyways, and then I arranged for us to, like, through that, we had prizes towards our wedding, and then like I organized our wedding and stuff like that. And then I was like, okay, we're going to ask our family um for like monetary gifts so that we can get our first house. And so we did that. And we got the first house, but then I wanted a second child. And so like in my head, I'm like, boom, boom, everything's happening exactly. I'm like, what do you want? We'll do this, we'll do that. And I'm making it all happen, and everything's moving, and everything's great. And I have the perfect life, and everything's wonderful. And then we have our house, and I have my second child. And then as I'm on mat leave, like, then I'm like, there's something, I started getting triggered. So, and that's what happens now, knowing what I do now, but I didn't know what was going on with me then. I was safe. I had everything. now all the things that I compartmentalized, that I thought I was this superhuman, that trauma never affected me, that like, like, yeah, these things happen to me, but like, you move on, and like, I'm good. It didn't affect me. But what happens is you compartmentalize it and you actually don't deal with it. And then it goes into waiting. It waits for you to be safe, to be happy, to be like, okay, now you can start dealing with this shit. And I didn't know that that's what was happening. And either did my ex-husband. He doesn't know, but like he's drinking, and yeah, he was drinking too much. Cause like, to me, I think like you shouldn't have to have like, yeah, one or two drinks every day is too much. Yeah, you're not getting drunk. No, you're not going out to the bars, and you're helpful, and you're working. And then, but like, uh, all of a sudden, the sound of the ice cubes started just like setting me off. And I started going to and like everyone, I'm looking around, everyone's drinking. Like, why is this normal in society? And like, I don't think that like, we shouldn't have to drink alcohol in order to like communicate or like to have fun. And like, why is this always? So I started asking, these questions started coming up, and I actually went to a counselor through, because my work had benefits, and I went to a counselor, and I'm like, I think something's wrong with me. I said, because like, I feel like there's something, like, why do everybody need to be drinking and stuff? And it's okay. I look around, it's normal in society, but I don't understand why everyone needs this. And so I think something's wrong with me, because I'm the one with the problem with it, but everybody else seems to be fine with these things. And then she started saying like, actually, there's nothing wrong with you. You actually are correct in that. Like, people like, people are turning to this as a coping mechanism. And then, so I tried to communicate this with my husband, like ask him to stop drinking. And I started going, but like, I was going through this process where I was like, is this it? Like, is this my life now? Like, I'm just going to be here, because he started saying he didn't want to have any more kids. He didn't want to travel. And he would complain, like, because I was moving up the ladder at work and making more money, and he was just kind of staying the same. And he's like, so I think I started like activating maybe some wounds within him. But I was like, you could go back to school. And he's like, no, I'm not going to I don't want to do that. And then he didn't want to do anything about what he was complaining about. And then I was like, and so in my mind, I'm like, okay, uh-oh, you know, I want to still do stuff in life. And is this all that I'm going to get to do?
Right.
And so like, then he asked me like, are you like, do you still love me? And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I said, I do love you, but I'm not in love with you. I'm like, can you stop drinking? He's like, no. He's like, can you stop going to the gym? And I'm like, that's not the same thing. And he's like, yeah, it is. You love going to the gym. I love drinking. I don't do anything bad. I just have a few drinks, and I'm not going. And I'm like, but it's not the same. And then like, we just actually, and when I said, he said, do you love me? And I said, I love you. I'm not in love with you. And then he left and just walked out the door. And so I thought I was in this good place, but then everything started happening for me. Like, all of the wounds started coming, because now, the abandonment and overwhelm, doing all this like a single mother on my own. I went back to work with this new position of SIU, and it was completely new, and it was very like, it had a lot to it. But now I went back as this single mom with two babies, basically, and trying to like organize everything. And that I actually ended up having like a mental breakdown. Like, I couldn't function anymore. I stopped going. I had to like take time off of work. But then I was doing bodybuilding, and that's when I got into bodybuilding, and that actually became my obsession, bodybuilding. and I didn't know that that was my coping mechanism, really.
That became your obsession over your kids? You got 2 kids
No,
in the house.
no, like mothering those two and
Okay,
bodybuilding.
okay. Just wanna make sure
Yeah,
we clear that now.
yeah. Because what ended up too, I started like I'm at work and I started thinking that's what led me to the next path is I'm trying to like I'm at work, I'm commuting an hour each way, and I'm feeling like I'm barely getting to see my kids, and daycares are raising them. And I don't want that. Like, I want to spend more time with my kids. But also, I just wanted to do bodybuilding I just wanted to mother and do bodybuilding. Those were the two things. And I started, um, and so like I didn't watch TV, I didn't do anything. So I'd like go to work, stay to the corporate job, come home. Then I met my next boyfriend who took me into bodybuilding even deeper. And he he was quite younger than me. So now see the script flips. He was well, he was old enough, but hold on. What was he? I thought he was older than he was when I met him because I was like, oh, maybe I don't know how old I was. 30 in my 30s, and he was like in his early 20s. I'd have to actually go because I remember when he told me his age, I was like, what? But he was like 20, well, he's 27, 24 or 25 or something. And then I was like 30, 31, something like that. And at first I was like, oh shit. Anyways, he was into he was like, he saw me competing through social media, and he's like, he's like, come work out with me. I'll help guide you or whatever. Um, and I didn't know like he had a girlfriend, but I wasn't sure if he had a girlfriend. It was very confusing. And then he ended up going with me, and then I figured out like I wasn't sure if he was with her or not, and then I realized he still is. And then I thought like they must have had an open relationship. I was very confused by the whole thing. And then eventually he told me he wanted to be with me, and then he broke up with her. And I was like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "Are you sure?" And um so then I find out about like um he like what he did. I found out little things, small little things about the bodybuilding world. And then there's like muscle worship and cam. And so I'm bodybuilding. I got in a car accident, by the way, and I ended up totaling my car and not being able to have a place like way to get to and from work. But um and I ended up doing a bodybuilding show when like because I was training for a bodybuilding show while I was working for them, but I totaled my car in the same week that I had the bodybuilding show. And because I had like prepped for that show, I still wanted to do the show, even though I was like hurt from that accident because I fell asleep on the highway actually, um, and a, hit another car, and it was nobody got hurt badly, but I did have like some injuries, and I was in pain. So and I didn't have a car, so I was off work, told them because of the car accident, but I didn't want to miss the bodybuilding show. And so I still went to and competed in that show. And then they found out that I competed. And so they were like, we're like, what's going on? So they were investigating me, and I felt complete shame and guilt that I did that. And then I just quit. and and so then I was like without a job, and I went on unemployment to figure it out. And then I had to figure out how I'm going to, and I thought like, okay, this is a gift because I want to be home with my kids anyways. And I want to get into bodybuilding, and I'll figure out my next step. And then, but I didn't really know what to do. And and then I found out about like this, like muscle worship, like through Cam. And I started doing that in order to like, I could be there and be home for my kids, and I could, support my dream of competing in bodybuilding. And so, but I didn't know how I wanted to manage that because I didn't really want to do like all of the things that people did.
Don't you
But like I
find
was,
with your story, not to cut you off, but don't you find similarities right now with just you telling your story that you you're repeating
hmm
the same things that traumatized you from the get go?
hmm
It's just a different sauce.
exactly, exactly.
So you're doing the muscle worship. He takes you to the underground parts of
hmm
bodybuilding, and I'm not knocking what you got to do to get by, but
hmm
you're still going to be judged by what you do.
hmm
Is I tell people all the time, your digital blueprint is out there.
hmm
How are you changing your life now?
Now,
Because we see the blueprint and it looks like the same story from the get.
yeah, exactly.
So what do you
That's
do? What do
when,
you do now to change all this?
well, yeah. So that's exactly when I woke up to like that I was repeating everything because I went through this thing with this boyfriend, and then I had like a huge attachment, like trauma bond with him significantly because he ended up cheating on me and like a whole bunch of things. I ended up with this big trauma bond. I still wasn't able to let him go when I was 5, but like I still love, he taught me a lot too. Like I still have love and care and appreciation for the things that um he taught me, but then there were lots of things that, I
Why
wish I
wouldn't he
didn't
teach you how
experience.
to why wouldn't he teach you a different path to being successful versus the black underground of muscle worshiping and pornography, pretty much?
But that's the thing is you have to zoom out now, come out of my perspective, and you'd have to go into his life story, right?
Mhm.
And he has a life story too that would take him down that path, right?
Right.
So he has significant trauma that put him in that path as well.
But now you're recognizing, because I just heard you, that he's got his own shit he's dealing with.
hmm
You're repeating the same shit. So walk away. Now, how do you move forward? Because don't forget, at the end of the day, people are listening. You got 2 children. You don't want
hmm
you don't want your children to repeat or see
No,
what you saw with your mom, with your dad, and so forth. So now what are you doing to close it out?
yeah. So that's why I was like, that's when I woke up and I'm like, shit, because I ended up with another boyfriend, and he ended up being very like controlling, came into my house and actually tried to convince me that to like put his name under my like under the mortgage. And he would say things like, I'm coming in, like he would tell us like basically that we're a burden, that he's coming in and he's doing all these things for us. What do I have to offer for him? Meanwhile, I have beautiful kids, a beautiful, like I have pets, lots of love, and I own my own house, and he didn't come with his own fucking house. But he had used this tool to like say like, I'm taking you guys on. You guys are lucky that I'm here. So anyways, I end up realizing like down this realizing I'm in such a bad place, and I finally wake up to my patterns and my repetition compulsion of what I experienced when I was young. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, I need to change this. And I can't have my kids experiencing the same shit as me. And I need to change this now. And And so like my my eldest daughter was 10. She went to live with her dad because we had like, because like I was also like, I didn't, my nervous system, like I realized like I was yelling at them, and like, you know, I wasn't um able to like nervously hold um nice calm parenting all the time. Like I was overwhelmed, and like I knew that I wasn't in a good place and I needed to change something about me, um so that I could be even better for them, and so that I didn't have a toxic man. I didn't gravitate towards a toxic man and then them experiencing the repercussions. And also, I needed to like help my own nervous system so that, you know, I didn't yell at them and repeat the same things like, uh, like losing my temper, because that wasn't safe for, you know, a kid's nervous system. Like when I get mad and like I yell or scream, that's not good. And I'm under this type of feeling because of like the tension that I'm having in this relationship, and then I'm like, this is just so toxic and I need to change. And how do I change that? Um so then I started doing, I went on it, like I just started learning and learning, because I didn't know that there was like, I was blind. Like I didn't know that there was something in me that attracted these experiences to me. Like I didn't even talk about all, like when I was 16 or 15, 16, going for my driver's license exam, the instructor, who obviously knows how old I am, he like started taking me around. He made the exam take about 30 minutes, and he tried to, like, he was hitting on me, asked me to go down by the beach and all sorts of things. And I was very uncomfortable. And I didn't, and I'm just trying to like, you know, uh, that's okay. No, I'm good, type of thing. And then eventually, as the exam is over, he asked for my number, and I'm like, oh, I have a boyfriend. And then he loses his shit on me. And like, then when I complete my college diploma, I try to get a job in paralegal communications. This guy offers me a job. I go to see it. I come back and he propositions me for, you know, sex instead of like, and telling me like I'm no good for the job. So I'm like, I just know all of these things are happening to me, and I'm very confused why all of these things are happening. And then I am having these relationships that are treating me this way, and I have no idea what the hell is wrong with this world. And then I wake up to like, then I start learning that, okay, that there's an attractor thing in me that I actually need to heal in order to no longer attract these experiences to me. So I need to educate myself. I need to start to become aware, and I need to understand what it is. And that's the thing, is like the bodybuilding boyfriend that took me to the dark world, he also brought me into some very eye-opening and um like good things too, because he told me about oh my goodness, I forget her name, but anyway, she does affirmations, and Louise Hayes. And then like awakened me to this aspect. And he was very confusing, because he was very spiritual and into yoga and all sorts of things, but then he had this other part of him in this dark, you know, like, but like when you're in bodybuilding and the environment, there's a lot of this stuff is going on. So once you start getting into that, in order to support yourself, lots of people are doing this stuff behind closed doors, and people and the industry doesn't talk about it. And then um but that's how a lot of like they're being able to um do the sport and feed, you know, like, because you're taking lots of, the food is expensive, training's expensive, nobody's like, you're not getting paid like other athletes. And you know, the performance enhancing drugs are expensive, and then that's like, that also messes with how you think and behave as well. So I started seeing this, that there's a lot of like what the dark side of this bodybuilding life entails, and learning about modeling, and it happens so incrementally and small that it's not like boom, um you don't go from not knowing to all of a sudden into into this world. It's done ever so slightly that you don't even realize that you're getting there,
Hmm.
and then you're there.
So,
So it would be like, so like the first thing was like, just like, about modeling. And then it's like, hey, you have a photographer reaching out, and you're just competing, and you're excited, and you're starting to get, all these people following you on social media, and you're like, what the hell is going on? Like all of this influx, and you have photographers reaching out, and you just know about like, like people being big and famous, and like, so you're kind of like stargazed by, oh, a photographer wants to pay me to shoot. Oh, this is so exciting. And so like, you're like $300 for an hour. You're like, oh, wow. And then you go, they don't say that it's a video, but then you go and they're like, oh, it's a video. And they're like, okay, so just flex and do this. And so you just like, and you're just kind of like, oh, well, that's not so bad. Like, I don't think, like, you're doing things that you're like, okay, whatever. Like, it's not like, you're not like, you know, playing with the for like, you're not doing things like that. You're just doing things like this. And you're like, that's not a big deal. And you're like, it's weird. I don't understand it, but whatever. And then so like I just follow instructions, and they tell me what to do. And then you're posted all over like these websites, and you're like, oh, okay. And then you have to make sense of that. And you're like, well, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not really doing anything. If someone, I guess if they get their rocks off, that's up to them. That's like, I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm just flexing my biceps. It's weird that people get off on just that, but you're just thinking, okay. And then one thing leads to another, and then you go to um doing like fights, like do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you're not doing anything weird. Like, really, you're just doing a fight, but people get their rocks off by that. But like, so you're in this realm of this like underground world, and you're like, so I'm just like, boy, people do this on UFC and they get paid for it, and they're not. And then so like, I'm just doing the same thing, and I'm getting paid for it. I'm not doing anything, like that crazy. But now, because I post that into those types of realms, those types of sites, so now like you belong there. And then it was like, then since I had already done that, um and I didn't have a job, it was like, okay, well, why don't you try like this site for this campsite? And then I'm like, okay, well, I guess if I choose not to do, I get to choose what I do and don't do. That'll be fine. And then you kind of experiment. Am I okay with this? Am I not okay with that? And then I was going through the relationship that I was in, which was like just a whole mind fuck. You end up like in just an unhealthy space in your mind. And I had all this trauma, and then I ended up like, thinking I'm exploring with someone, like a safe viewer on the other side, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do. And I thought, okay, let me explore this one thing with this one viewer that offers me this. And then I'm like, it'll be safe because it's just this one viewer that I'm going to explore this with. And then that one viewer videotapes it without you knowing, and then posts it all over Pornhub. And now everything's everywhere. So now it looks like you do that a whole lot of times, and everything's all over the place. And then you want to get out of it. And so I have a fan that doesn't want me out of it, and he starts harassing me. and with online and emails, creating a million different accounts. And so then he starts posting, he somehow has these videos, and then he starts posting it over on more sites, and more sites, and more sites. And then he starts um, sending them to, my boyfriend at the time. And then, and you're just like, you've just somehow dug yourself into this whole like web of just like shame, and you're trying to get out, and now it's everywhere, and the people won't let you get out, and then um hiding it, and I'm all by myself, and I'm trying to keep it a secret, and I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to talk to my neighbors. I don't want to talk to anyone because I don't want anyone to find this stuff out. And I tell my like my boyfriend at the time, he knows, but now this type of individual has leverage over me because he knows that I hold shame for this, and he's doing me a favor by keeping my secret, and so now he can use that to to create more control over me. And so when I realize, like, I'm just like, how I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to function in life. Um, I end up being, yeah, I was suicidal. Um, because I felt like just the lowest, like nobody loves me. My parents couldn't even love and care for me. My person that I'm with is telling me how shit I am. I am being harassed online. How can I can't get another job. Um, I can't even go out and function anymore. And and I'm like, but I don't want to do, like, I, how can I pay my bills and stuff? And I don't want to do this, but like, I'm in this like hard place where I just don't see a way out, and I don't know what to do. There was a time, um, and I just have this ex-boyfriend who we had broken up, and he lived in my house for, like 6 months after. I couldn't get him out of my house. And the things that he toyed with my mind was ridiculous. And anyway, so like, but I remember the moment that I took my power back, because I was just like in this victim mentality, just feeling like so much shame, so awful. And I remember in the car, like parked, and I really wanted to end my life. Like, I was really close because I thought everybody was better without me. Because this boyfriend told me like how shit of a parent I was. He had beat me so down. And when I told him about, like, because I didn't even talk about all the other, like, I did a modeling gig. I ended up getting drugged and raped when I went, like, there were things. And and like this kind of boyfriend that I told all of these things that happened to me, he told me that he like reinforced my biggest fear, is that it was all my fault. And like, so like, I just felt like I did this life wrong. I fucked up. I fucked up big, and there's no coming back from this. And yeah, it was really close.
Mandy.
And then I didn't. I ended up back. And then there was one other time that I was just like, it just felt like it was just shadows of like I actually recall it's like demons just like whoosh in the car because like we had had this argument, this boyfriend that was in the house, and he wasn't treating me very well. And I went out and I was just like, and then I was like, and I realized this man has me so low, and I am so distraught thinking that the way he's treating me has something to do with me. And it was like this. It was like an instant step into my power. And I was like, and I realized like, because like these demons wanted me to kill myself. Like, really, like, it's like, you're nothing. Nobody loves you. You can't get out. Like, you fucked this life up. You might as well just end it so that you can do it again. And then I knew it. I saw it. I was like, that's not me. Like, this is like, I am not this. This is not it. And I'm not going to let this talk to me like this way. And I'm not going to let him talk to me. And I'm not going to care what he does say. He can't do anything to me anymore because I am okay with me. And then I remember walking into the house and I was fine. And I was like, I'm changing everything around. This is not going to happen. I'm not doing this because all my kids were always there. And I was like, I will not give them the trauma of me going out like that. I will not do that to them because that would be the worst. And so then like I knew about ayahuasca and I was like, I'm good. Like, I need to really just, I knew, I was like, I have these pains, hurts, traumas that makes me stay in relationships like these. And I will never fucking attract that ever in my life. And he thought that I was doing the healing so I'd eventually get him back. And I was like, no, no, no. And I'm like, mm-mm. So I'll never get anyone like you back into my fucking life. I will never have that happen again. And so I was like, I need to know. I need to go deep within here. I need to learn how to love myself and how to be okay with everything. And I started learning about everything that I could, the feminine, the masculine. I started like how parts of me would like interact with others and like how, and, and so like he would be aggravating, so like he would get me to like have certain responses, and I found it really difficult to like, because I would learn these things and then like in the moment it was so hard to apply it. So I went for my first ayahuasca ceremony and then I cleared something in my energy so that when I actually came back, because like the things that I was reading I couldn't embody quite yet because my nervous system kept reacting, but I had cleared something enough in my body so that it created the space so that when he was coming at me, I knew, I was like, I knew, and I saw it. I'm like, this poor man is a little child that his dad or someone treated him like this. This has nothing to do with me. And he was taught to behave this way.
Did
And
you
so,
did you move him out of your space?
oh yeah, eventually, like I think he kept thinking like I was going to get back with him. And I think that's why he took such a long time. And I was like, oh no, they're like, no. I have complete love and gratitude. He was a teacher for me because you know what? I didn't know I had all this stuff inside of me because what he did was he was the mirror of all the things that I felt inside of myself. So, for example, like I believed that it was my fault that I experienced all of these, sexual things
Hmm.
done to me. I put myself in that. And he verbalized it out here. And the reason it hurt me so much was because I had a belief in here that that was true. Right. So that's when I started realizing this man, this outside, influence can only hurt me as much as I'm hurt inside. So what do I have to do is I have to heal the things that I believe about myself and the things that hurt me inside so that no matter what this person says, it doesn't phase me anymore because I don't believe it. So it only hurts as much as I believe it. And I only react as much. I only need to defend as much as there's something within me that believes something like that. So in order to come out of like two, like I started realizing I need to own everything about myself. I needed to be okay that I did cam work. I needed to be okay that I was sexually abused. I needed to be okay that I was, raped here. And like, I needed to be okay that those things happened to me in order for me to get to the next space. So like for example, he would say like, oh, if everybody knew who you actually are, if they knew that you did cam, they would think XYZ. So I realized if I'm okay that I did that, you can no longer hold that over me. If I accept that I did that, you can no longer use that as leverage. You can only use that as leverage for as long as I'm not okay with that information being out. So I need to be okay with everything that I did. I need to come to terms with those things. And that's exactly like, that's why I'm okay with, I'm, I, I read, I also had to do a lot of reading, and the map of consciousness helped me too. There's a ladder of and it's like guilt, shame, and shame is like at the very bottom. And so like I had to really go into my own shame. And then I had like beautiful friends at the same time that came about, and like as I slowly began to say to them, this is what I do. Cause like it took me, like I wasn't completely out of doing cam, but I was like doing it for what like I was okay with doing. And I was okay with what I was doing, but then like I was just observing, because I was very, at the same time I was curious about like, why do men behave like this and what does that mean? And like seeing like, okay, a lot of them are only coming because they're actually like, because of their wounds, and they actually are lonely. And so like I was curious, and I wanted to understand, and I wanted to actually like provide love and understanding at the same time, and like kind of understand why these things happen in this world, why these people are here, why are they. And so I was intaking data at the same time. And but like the people in my life, like this my soul family came along, that I did meditations with, and like me sharing that and them not shutting me, like them like loving me and saying like, man, I respect you for what you do, because you're like you're a single mom, and you're like raising your family, and like took me to a new perspective, because like that was true, that's what I was doing. um but I just judged and shamed myself, and like it wasn't in alignment with me. No, it wasn't. There are women who do it, and sure, like maybe it is in alignment with me, but I don't know if they truly healed everything, would it be in alignment with them?
Hmm.
But it never really was in alignment with me. And because of that, I knew there was a huge part of me that like, and that's why I just continuously isolated myself and held myself down, which is so funny when you become, and that's the thing, is when you are become accept it for yourself and be like, you know what, I was a human, I had shit happen to me, I reenacted that, it was a journey. It taught me a lot. And like when you're okay with that and you share that, like I learned from that, that I found out that that's not me and where I want to go, but I can respect myself, that of course I went down there, and you know what? It taught me X, Y, Z, Z to do. Like I learned a lot from that experience. And I learned also that that is not the me in alignment. So I have contrast of what I don't like, and I can go more towards what I do like. And so a lot of people get into this thing where they think like, oh, if someone's like have a bad past, um, oh, they're more likely to go into that past. But if you actually truly went through the experience and healed and owned it and healed from it, it's like you have zero need to go there anymore, because the only reason you were reenacting it was because there was something in you that didn't take the healing, that didn't take the wisdom, that was avoiding it. And when you're avoiding something and you're shamed and guilt, that's the cycle, that's the circle, it's the guilt. So because you are shameful of it and you can't move it, then you're just going to keep going there unconsciously. But then when you start to own, okay, this is why I was there, and I can totally love and have compassion for the me that felt like she had to go through that. And because I know that, like, now I've got what I needed from it, because I've got it all. I'm fulfilled from that experience. That experience wasn't the greatest experience. It taught me some good things,
Mhm.
but I'm fulfilled and I don't need it anymore. So I will never, ever have to experience that again.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, thank you so much for taking time out to share this story. I know it was long, but you know what? With all you went through, you deserve every single minute to be on this show and share that beautiful story. I would have did myself a disservice to have not allowed you to take us through that entire journey. Before we wrap up, I'm gonna give you two questions to answer briefly. what would you want somebody to get from your journey so far before we wrap up?
That you can change your life no matter where you've been, and that you have never done anything wrong enough that you can't come out of. And the only way that you can do it is through coming to terms and accepting where you are, where you've been, without trying to run away from it. And you can heal. It's 100% possible.
Mindy, thank you so much. Like I said, once again, I know it was a painful journey going down this road. Thank you for allowing me to air and hear your story. I want everybody to make sure that you subscribe, like, share. All it takes is one click of a button to make a difference in somebody's life as well as your own. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another, and I do mean another, exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Creighton Show.